here's the thing you really want to avoid. This is where I find a lot of people get in a lot of trouble. They for years through the bull market, or many months, they see, or in some cases, in the case of a secular leader, it could be literally a decade or more. They get so conditioned to a company that has just correction after correction after correction has come back, and it always seems to come back. And after a while, it's that official growth stock, that official quality company. We talked about this earlier, and Amazon would be a perfect example. Google would be a perfect example, where people think, these stocks are just bulletproof. They're never going to, that stock's never going to be down 90% or go out of business. I mean, I heard for years and years, for decades, I heard it's Coca-Cola. I mean, they're certainly not going to go out of business. Well, maybe not, but the stock could easily go down 60, 70, 80% and stay down for the next 20 or 30 years. So that would be almost as bad. I mean, if you had your money in it and in a stock and it went down 80% and stayed down and didn't come and never came back for a couple decades, well, that would be pretty much as this, the stock went almost to zero, and your money would be tied up. So what we call this is the broken leader, the broken leader syndrome, if you will. And this is something that I see over and over and over. So Amazon now, corrects and tops and is down 50, 60%, right? And the PE comes in and it looks like a value, and you've probably seen it so many times, bounce back. And now you think, wow, this is that golden opportunity for me to buy Amazon cheap. Of course, the people who do this weren't smart enough, to buy Amazon the 15 other times where it set up and broke out, went to new high ground, pulled back, formed a base, and they watched it for a decade. And now all of a sudden, because it's down huge, and because they can pick up the newspaper or look online and see that the PE is cheap and the stock is down, all of a sudden you're a genius, and you're gonna make a bunch of money doing something that the whole world can see. This is usually when it's the end of the move, and this is what you want to avoid. And here's what happens. This is how it usually plays out. The stock has a big break, and it's down huge, and it looks like you're getting a bargain, and the PE will usually justify that. The PE will come down, and the analyst will be saying, this is a value, it's trading at a 10-year low PE, and you're getting it very cheap, and the earnings are, the earnings might even still be growing. So now you get growth at a reasonable price. But what happens is the stock discounts, and the bad earnings haven't come in yet, but they're about to. And then when they finally come in and the losses start coming in, or the real negative earnings, all of a sudden the PE shoots up. See the PE here? Boom, it comes way up, and it's at an all-time high, just like that, because now the bad earnings are coming in, and it all makes sense. And then you get even a bigger decline. That's where the stock underperforms, because a real change, a real business change, or some change in the economy has taken place that is really a really fundamental flaw now. Here's lumber liquidators. Perfect example. This was not a secular leader like something like Amazon it has been, or maybe back in the day something like like we just pointed out, this one here, of course. What was Java? What was Java? That wasn't JAVA. Do you remember? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, it was a coffee.
What was this? Oh, okay. I thought this was a different stock at first. But some of these high flyers, like I said, Qualcomm's a perfect example. Everybody bought Qualcomm all the way down, and even stocks like Dell Computer and a lot of names that you would think today are household names. Cisco, we talked about. Microsoft for decades didn't get back to break even. I mean, this is a high quality company. Lumber Liquidators was not a secular leader, but it was a market leader that made a really big move in a short period of time. And you can see again, going into new high ground here, look, it's the most expensive, right? It breaks, and it has a huge decline from 120 all the way down to 50 something dollars. And now it's hitting its lowest. It's at the lowest PE. And stock actually rallies a little bit, then rolls over, and then look, see, Now you're much more expensive. The stock is now down 90%, but you're way more expensive. Instead of a PE down around, it was even down into like, I don't know, 15 PE here or something, 10 or 15 PE. Now it zooms all the way up. It's over 100 times earnings. See, now it truly is expensive because the losses came in, all the bad news start coming in, but the stock discounted it. Hey, Dave, why don't you talk about also how, what we've learned over the years and over decades is that you usually have the earnings on the table on the upside, and it could last for some time, but we don't usually sell on fundamentals. We usually sell on technicals, right?
Yeah, I've always said I buy on fundamentals and technicals, and I'm selling on the technicals. And I'm not looking at valuations. And after a stock has had when I've seen a stock have a huge run and it's been a market leader and it comes off more than 50%, I usually put that in the back of my mind that stock is finished, because to get back to old highs, the stock has to double. So this is just, one rule, even without looking at what the valuation is. I usually put the stock, into the penalty box and rarely look at it after a big move and after it's come off like that, because usually when a stock has a 50% drop, it's not going to come back that quickly because it has lots of overhead supply.
Yeah, and why do we sell on technicals and we buy sometimes with technicals and fundamentals, but on the downside or on the sell side, we're mainly relying on technicals. And there's a saying that you take the stairs up and the elevator down, right? Well,
right. And I've seen so many stocks have huge downsides even before the fundamentals are announced. I've saw it on Gap Stores was down 50% before they came out and said, oh yeah, by the way, the quarter's not going to be good. And so there are people inside, maybe there's analysts that know, maybe there's suppliers that know, hey, things are starting to slow down, and they start selling. And I put a lot more emphasis on supply and demand, on the volume and the price action than I do analyst estimates and how cheap a stock could get on a valuation basis.
Right. What we found is that, the stocks will, when they top, these stocks will discount. They will discount the earnings, and the earnings will still look good. Very often you'll have the earnings where even though they may be decelerating a bit, they'll still be strong. The analysts will still be, having rosy, glowing reports, and the news will generally be good, and the stock will come off. And that's why it'll look like a bargain, because everybody's saying, it's great. Everything's going good. You're still growing. You've got great growth rates. And then the disappointment comes later on. There's an intelligence in the market. It's really incredible how it discounts the future. And this is something that, again, you'll see time and time again. If you go and you look at these stocks, and we're going to show you lots of examples. So let me finish up here. This is just a real quick, perspective that we're giving you. We're going to go through examples. Remember, I started off, I said, we're going to start at a satellite view, then we're going to come down to an aerial view, then we're going to go to an overhead view, and then we're going to get under the microscope and look at things microscopically. So we're still in that satellite view. We're still looking at just a big overall picture, like from space, and looking at putting everything into perspective. So you need all this, though. This may sound maybe like it's basic or remedial, or this is something, give me I want the buy points, the trade, how do I make the trades, and where do you cut your loss? We're going to get to all that. We're going to talk about everything in absolute detail, but you really need this perspective. It's all this whole workshop is set up in a chronological way. It's very logical, and everything builds on the next thing. Now, here's another thing is very important that you have to understand. Everything that we tell you, every single step that we tell you, anything going forward does not negate anything that we said prior. Okay, so everything builds on the previous. So if we're telling you to do X, well, and then we tell you to do Y and Z, well, Y and Z can only occur if X happens. Z can only happen if X and Y happens. So these are all things that are going to be, we're going to be building. All right. And you're going to be stacking probabilities and learning how to put all the probabilities and put all the wind in your sail. Get as much information on the right information. That's the main thing, is to get the right, we look at the right things and know what to look at and how to decipher it, and then have all those probabilities in your favor when you're placing these trades, and of course getting out of them when the probabilities turn against you.
Yeah. And I would add that if you've been in the markets for a while and you haven't had a whole lot of success, there's probably a lot of bad habits and a lot of ideas that you have in terms of how markets work and how stocks act that are wrong. And you're going to have to kind of flush your mind of all that and start concentrating on the things that we're going to be going over, because this is what actually works in the marketplace. So
yes.
And there's a lot of fallacies, a lot of almost sayings on Wall Street that aren't really, really that true. So you really have to have an open mind for all this that we're going to be pouring out at you.
Yes, and that pouring is a good word, because what I like to say is that you have to empty your cup. If you want us to fill your cup, it has to be empty. We can't, if you pour a liquid into a full cup, it overflows. It can't go in there, right? So this is part of emptying your cup, right? We're gonna try to break some of the preconceived notions and the myths and some of the things that you might think are important, and try to narrow you down to really getting to really what works and really what is important. Well, even more important than knowing what works is to being able to just ignore everything else. And that's what I find, that even when I show and teach people what to do, they still try to bring in all this other stuff. They'll say, well, I'll do that, but I'll add in the stochastics indicator and only buy when it's at this. And, I'm going to blend it, and I'm going to take Minervini's work, but I'm only going to buy stocks that are a certain value. I'm not going to buy the real expensive stocks and just put it into, it doesn't work that way. All right. Like I said, everything builds on the next, and this is a full program. All right. We're going to give you everything A to Z. You're not going to need to make any changes. You're just going to, and believe me, you don't want to, because it's going to take you a long time to perfect this in itself.
Yeah. And I think what really helps is when they get their first big winner, when they actually buy a stock correctly at the right buy point, and that thing takes off, pretty soon you're going to start saying, man, this, I've never seen this before. And you're just going to want to do it over and over again. So, but it takes time. It takes time to throw out all the bad habits and bring in good ones. So it can be very, very rewarding. So
I'm going to finish up with one last point here. And as we're saying, we talk a lot about big winning stocks, and we're going to show a lot of big winning stocks, but that doesn't mean that we don't do short-term trading too, or swing trading. And so what I'm going to show you going forward, the buy points are going to be exactly the same, whether you're swing trading or you're going to hold it for a much bigger move. The only difference is that you'll probably apply it. I'm going to show you how there's different areas where you're going to apply it a little bit differently. And I don't mean differently in the respect of different rules for buying, but so you're in the beginning stages of a bull market. You had a bear market and you come off the bear market lows, maybe your first rally off the lows, bunch of stocks set up, they're breaking out of bases. You might be on to a big secular winner that's now about to be the leader in the next bull market. You're not going to want to trade out of that whole position and just do a quick trade on that. You want to hold some of that and try to play it for a bigger move. Now, on the flip side, let's say you're in a bull market and years go on, and everything's been coming out of base after base, and it's very extended. It's getting volatile, and you're not getting big moves out of stocks. You're going to buy from the exact same buy point, but instead you might be selling and taking much quicker profits and adjusting your losses in relation. So everything is going to be exactly the same. If you're thinking, oh, I don't want to, I'm a trader, I don't, this long-term stuff. No, it's all the same. You're going to be, whether you're going to be trading out and swing trading, or you're going to be holding for a bigger move, we're going to be buying from the exact same buy points. And there's been times, like, for instance, I showed you Yahoo went up 8,000%. I did not hold it for an 8,000% move, but I had a double on it. Then I was up about 60% another trade. I was up 30% another trade. And I traded that stock 15 or 20 times during that move, and compounded. I made a huge percentage. So again, everything's going to be the same, but we're going to go through this in absolute, incredible, nauseating detail. But we got to give you this perspective, and we have one more. We're going to come back and we're going to talk about one more area that's going to give you that broader perspective, and then we'll start getting a little more focused. We're getting into the earnings and sales and profit margin, the fundamentals, and then we get into the really fun stuff, the charting, and really get down to the buy points and risk management, position management, and all that great stuff. All right. So we're going to take another break.